Welcome to the St. Louis Home Chat. I'm your host, Angela Dillmon at the Dillmon Group, powered by Keller Williams Realty Chesterfield, the #1 selling office in St. Louis. Today we're here with Steve Burton, our waterproof solutions man. He's our favorite waterproof structural repair man. And today we're in a basement and we're going to talk about waterproofing in your basement. But first of all, Steve, why do they even need to waterproof down here? What happened that we're down here in this basement and you're making such a big repair today?
Well, I'll start with the person that rehabs the home. Sometimes homeowners will do it. They'll take a least resistance, least expensive approach towards maybe addressing a problem. It's human nature. You're leaving. I get it. But at the end of the day, somebody's going to be sitting in this home. So these folks that moved to this home are from out of state, unaware of a lot of things that were going on. Probably their first basement, if I remember right. So when they got hit with that major flood in the yard and it started coming over the top of their walls, and I'm going to bring you over to a crawl space, that the water flooded in so much that they really thought it was apocalyptic. Had no idea what they were up against. Look at the finishings on the ceiling. We're in a basement, folks. Look at that flooring. Multiple televisions on the wall. And where were we at the end of the day? We were in trouble because we didn't know about any of this until we got the next hard rain and water started coming up. So an interior drain tile system is a lot like a French drain, except that it's inside, and the black pipe is completely appropriate. That holds a lot of water. It's 4 inches in diameter and has a lot of slits around it. The vulnerability of this is the sun, as well as tree roots and things attacking it. Well, it's all protected inside of here. It never has to be worried about because it's set in river rock. It's inside of a geotextile, so we don't have to worry about it moving, and it can collect a lot of water. Some of these channel drains and some of these other systems that have cleanouts, if your house has a cleanout on the inside, you have a problem, because that means it's building up so much mud and garbage up next to your drain that they're asking you to flush it out.
Wow.
That should have been blocked.
That should have been blocked to begin with.
Yeah.
And remember, this French drain he's talking about now, this black corrugated pipe, is only good inside.
Only
We're talking
inside.
Schedule 40 outside with the holes at 10 and 2 o'clock.
That's right.
With the proper geotech fabric,
Right.
the river rock, and then the piping.
And then the geotextile, I mean, we put a vapor barrier down and then we pour our concrete on top, so we won't leave any rock unturned as far as doing it correctly. Let's move then to a wall crack. This is a typical wall crack. You can see it's leaked a little bit, starting to get a double cut on it in the sense that it's breaking twice. It's starting to get a little mud in it, organic material. Well, a lot of my competitors and people in the industry have elected to take the easy way out and put plastic up over the front of it.
Oh wow, plastic up over a wall.
Same
Not
plastic
a
that's in your
great
bathroom.
idea.
It's like
Tell
a
me
shower
why
stall.
that's not a great idea,
The
Steve.
wall will die. You've got rebar that's running this high as well as this high in the wall, minimally. That will just die. Rebar, as it gets water, will start to rust. It can become 7 times its size if it's completely saturated long enough.
So your rebar is your metal rods in your wall that's providing some structural integrity to your concrete wall, and that does rust out.
Right. So
And
what?
so to continue to allow a leak, which is what happens when they put these plastic barriers up, now you can't see it, and the water keeps coming in,
And mud.
it'll drive it down to a drain system all right, but it's breaking your wall.
And the wall's starting to fill up with organic material, and the more mud and different things get in there naturally occur that get into the wall, you can't occupy the same space. So if they don't put a plastic over the top, you'll see them major epoxy it. Well, it'll break a double break on an epoxy, so you can't do that either. So if something's structural, it's not fixed with an epoxy. It's fixed with carbon. It has to be looked at properly by trained eyes before that's even done. A lot of times you'll see a cove plate, which is a piece of plastic that will allow the walls to leak into the drainage system.
Yeah.
Some homes you have to have that. Stone foundation,
Stone
some block.
foundation.
A home where the homeowner cannot attack all the cracks in the wall, but they don't want the water on their floor. So there's a time and place for everything.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about being right, it's about getting it right, and each situation dictates that. Let's walk over and look over here. This is more what a system looks like. It's just we finished. The guys are just finished troweling. This kind of gives you an idea how dry the concrete is that we put in. This keeps shrinkage cracks from coming in. You know, concrete's made of all solids, but one of them turns to a vapor, water. So if you've got this solid mass and all of a sudden this much of it's gone, that's going to leave a crack. The drier the concrete, the lower the slump. That's some thick concrete. There's very little water in that. He'll be able to place that on top of the vapor barrier. Very important, we don't ruin our new concrete. This vapor barrier is just a mill plastic. But what's also important is you'll see the geotextile that's in this. This keeps anything from ever getting into my river rock. This is important. These are the extra steps that aren't done. How simple, how easy, why not? And then let's take it to the pit. If we're gonna put a pit in, let's put the proper pit in. Let's put the proper pump in. Let's not mess around.
You can tell Steve's really, really passionate about this because he's seen years and years of this being done wrong and then having to come back behind someone and fix it, and now the homeowner spent double the money on something. And that's why Steve's so passionate about educating you on waterproofing.
I don't mean to sound angry, but it does have a tendency to kind of come into my veins, all the people that I can stand there. Remember the latest house that was covered in plastic, the whole house? Remember the house we went to that had all the piers that were put in? It didn't need a pier.
Didn't need one.
Didn't need one.
Yeah.
House I went to had plates on the wall. Oh, don't even get me started on plates. And it broke right to the plate. It was mud coming right through where the bolt went through. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. But this gives you kind of more of a rough state. We haven't done the next stages yet. The discharge to the pump, you'll notice that below there, my check valve's in place and it's vertical. Check valves cannot be horizontal and they cannot be diagonal. They do not work. This crawl space is where the other pump's going to be. There's going to be one in the corner inside there. Water cascaded down this wall. You can see by the staining there, unbelievable. They couldn't believe their eyes.
Wow.
So then after having it all opened up, we wound up paying, we don't need to go down there, but we had to go the whole back of the house, all the way to the end of the patio. So this job, as we got into it and started to open up, started to show its ugly face more and more. Now, I don't want to pull a Property Brothers. There's nothing I can't stand more than all of a sudden they're like, load-bearing wall, asbestos tile, really? What a setup. I actually was caught in that actual situation with this. I had to go to the homeowner. She saw it one day. I got water back over here. We're not even going back there. I saw no reason to. Thank the good Lord I saw it before we were done. Could I have fixed it? Yeah, but that's not very professional. So it's not about being right. It's about getting it right. And getting it right means being able to say, I made a mistake. I misjudged that. I underestimated that. And I underestimated this yard. I did. Take your punch in the face. That's how you get better. So the reality of it is, when we're finished, she's going to have a tight home, a tight yard, a good investment, and one that she can give to somebody else and not put somebody like yourself in harm's way.
No doubt. So there's your lesson. Manage your outside water flow. That's the very first thing. Obviously, you want to check your gutters and downspouts. That's just the beginning. I like the clean out in those downspouts outside that he took out to a dry well. He's really working on the exterior, and now he has to come in and do the interior because the exterior was ignored.
The floor lifted off the footing, Angela, and people don't think about it. Swimming pools are built better. There's a liner. You hear cold joint. Let me express to you what a cold joint is. You've got a footing that's poured. That's one piece of concrete that's gotten cold. It cured. It's like when you're doing eggs and suddenly those eggs aren't one egg. They're separate eggs when you're cooking. Are you with me? Good. Next, they pour the wall. Then they pull the forms off. A lot of times they start setting floor joists right away. And I think we all know that little 4 inches of footing that's sticking out, they don't run by and sweep it off real nice and clean it. So when they pour that new piece of concrete, the floor down, that it sticks real nice. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We've actually found organic material mud that was on a footing that caused the leaks on one of the walls. It wasn't super hydrostatic issues, there were bad downspouts, but it fed this wall so bad that the mud ended up coming straight across the footing. So there's a lot of little things that can happen.
So now the footing and the wall are not one.
Well, not in every area, because the water started to zip its way through where the mud was. So that needs to be dealt with and not just let it leak across. There's so many small nuances to my business that it's taken me so many years to learn, and I'll be darned if I think I know it all. I don't, because I learn something almost every week that kind of has it seems so obvious sometimes. When I say things to you, I've watched you go, well, of course. Well, because we have common sense when we can kind of sift through the right information. And those of you that have made bad decisions, I'm sure it wasn't on purpose. Right. Nobody sets out to spend the money they spend. And don't be tricked by, well, you want a good company to do it. Just a good company is not necessarily a company that's super advertising. Some of my best carpenters don't advertise at all. I advertise hardly at all.
Right.
I like to publicly get to my people. I like for them to find me organically. I like for them to see that I'm one with the community, not one that can march out $1 million advertising budget, put a bunch of salespeople in place. Greg Forstell's the only other person that looks at a home for me. He's been with me for 10 years, and he was a machinist before he came to me. Guys, anal retentive, he's very smart. And then we review them together. So when you do business with Waterproof Solutions, you do business with our team. My team is with Angela, it's with their buyer, it's with my contractors, it's with Tracy.
Right.
My team is what makes me what Waterproof Solutions is, and that is what we hope to be, is nothing but an asset to the community.
And that's really, really important, because a lot of large companies their business model is to put a lot of salespeople out there and go out and sell you something, and they're commission based, and that's what happens. They oversell you. And you really don't want a waterproofer who needs to earn his money on the system that he sells you, or he doesn't get any commission.
No, I was the same young man a long time ago that, I remember this guy going, you don't fix part of your roof, do you? Why would you fix part of your basement? And I fell into that way of thinking. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times someone that's a good communicator or someone that was decent in sales then gets manipulated by someone that knows what their agenda is.
So again, when it comes to waterproofing and structural repairs, you need to call somebody you can trust, Steve Burton, for Waterproof Solutions. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned something. I hope you pay attention to your water flow outside first and call Steve for an expert opinion. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining us.